It could be dubbed the Irish's contribution to Australian football, and it's one of Ireland's most popular sports. While the Hunter has enjoyed a long-term love affair with soccer and the rugby codes, tomorrow night's introduction to Gaelic football may see locals hungry for more.
This is the first team ever, and we've had 2 weeks to put it together and teach the boys how to play Gaelic football as opposed to rugby.
Despite teething problems early in the 2 weeks of training ahead of the match, it seems the locals are finally starting to show some talent.
A week ago I'd have cried, but they're getting it now.
And if the game proves popular amongst local players and crowds, organisers are looking to introduce the Hunter's own Gaelic Football League. Sarah Bamford, NBN News.
Emergency services arrived at the corner of Buchanan Road and Louth Park Road, Louth Park, shortly after 6 p.m. last night. Two cars had earlier collided at the intersection, the impact forcing this red Ford sedan to roll onto its roof, although its two passengers only received minor injuries. But the occupants of this debut hatch, all from Kurri Kurri, weren't as lucky. A 13-year-old boy travelling in the passenger seat suffered severe head injuries and died at the scene. The other occupants, a 35-year-old woman and two girls aged 11 and 7, were airlifted by the Westpac Rescue helicopter to John Hunter Hospital, where the youngest girl is still fighting for her life in a critical condition. Police are still investigating the accident. And two women died when their ute ran off a road and hit a tree at Bargo in the Southern Highlands. Both women were in their late teens or early 20s. And on Sydney's North Shore, a P-Play driver died shortly after his BMW hit a power pole and then slammed into a tree. Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
Broadmeadow is known better more for its miserly defence than scintillating attack, but they burst out of the blocks today against Edgeworth with a great cross from Mitchell Wallace leading to the first goal. Steve Kasev with the magic touch, but any goal like that is worth a second look, with the bicycle kick finish at home on any highlight reel. Kasev then found room for Scott Maguire, who has a real nose for goal. After a bad run of injuries, Maguire's lethal boot is back at the right time for Broadmeadow, while Craig Carter had a handle on things at the back with some timely saves against the best attackers in the league. Little went Edgeworth's way in the first half, while Maggie could well have led by 3, save for Dave Conway's good work. Forced to play catch-up, the Eagles just couldn't find a way through the Broadmeadow defence. One of few genuine chances came late after an accidental handball set up Peter Junknowitz from the spot. The attempt summing up Edgeworth's day as goalkeeper Carter pointed out just who's through to the decider.
After making a big splash in today's press, in which he said he felt like he'd been kicked in the behind by Knights management, O'Davis was less vocal today, going to ground ahead of talks with the club tomorrow. The 30-year-old is nearing the end of a 4-year deal worth more than $1 million and has reportedly been offered much less for the coming season.
I don't think we make any offers to kick anyone in the arse, but it's a balancing act. We're not the only club with this sort of problem. Problems Sydney City are having, problems Canterbury have been having. Most clubs are going through exactly the same thing. You're only allowed a certain money to spend, and you've got to divide it up.
That's just another difficult challenge that we have to. Hopefully, we can resolve because we want Robbie here next year.
O'Davis and the injured Tamana Tahu weren't named in the starting lineup today for Sunday's clash with the Raiders in Canberra. Daniel Abraham will play and says the team is trying to adjust to life without Joey.
I hope we can come out this weekend and, as a team, go well and then hopefully put the Joe thing to bed for good.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Only the second time the Pirates stepped out as a team, and it was without two import players and Kiwi representative Miles Pearce, but they didn't seem to miss them early. Brendan Mann stealing an early lead for the home side. Geordie Cullen was enjoying himself. He racked up 13 points in the first half, where the visitors slowly found form. Down 26-16, Iowa quickly drew level again. But the Pirates then launched a long-range attack. Cameron Rigby joining in. In doubt before the game with back problems, Rigby was strong throughout, while Cullen drove hard all night as well, scoring a game-high 22. Again, Iowa came back and pressured the Pirates. The NCAA side drawing level again by half-time. Coach Bruce Palmer showing he'll be no shrinking violet this season, while his team are showing all the right things as they continue to build for their debut season with a 105-100 win.
There's no disguising the fact the Mater Hospital is mostly made up of ageing and run-down buildings. But that's all about to change. Last night, Newcastle Council approved a major redevelopment of the site.
It'll be a great boon for the hospital and also for the community. These facilities are going to certainly promote and support state-of-the-art clinical practice and ultimately improve services to our patients.
Construction will begin in September next year, with a number of old unused cottages in Platt Street to be torn down.
The first stage is actually to develop a multi-level car park in Platt Street, and that actually clears part of the site to enable the ongoing redevelopment.
Also on the cards is a 4-storey building which will be built on the site of the existing car park on the northern side of Platt Street. This facility will house a new emergency department, intensive care unit and wards.
If you look at the infrastructure that's around, it really doesn't support contemporary hospital practice, and we think that our staff will be able to make great use of the new facilities and equipment.
The redevelopment will also increase bed numbers marginally from 185 to 192. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Regional division winners of this year's Science and Engineering Challenge gathered at the Honeysuckle Railway Complex in a bid to take home the Super Challenge Couple Plate. Schools from New South Wales and South Australia are among the qualifiers for the lineup of competitions, from building sailing boats to bridges. Organisers, including the University of Newcastle, say students have shown enthusiasm and talent throughout the day.
What we're trying to do is show them that science and engineering and technology has to have an innovative side.
The project, now in its fourth year, has attracted more than 4,000 competitors in 2003 alone and has proved to be a great success.
Across the state, we've been getting some excellent results as far as increases in young people doing physics and chemistry and mathematics is concerned.
But there's been more to today's activities than building catapults and virtual mazes.
Everyone's just participating really well, and it's just really good because we get to mix with people that we don't normally see and stuff, and it's just a good experience to be here.
Meanwhile, the Young Scientist 2003 exhibition was launched at the Newcastle Regional Museum. It's a display of the state's best science and technology projects from primary and secondary students. Sarah Bamford, NBN News. It's the second break-in at Gray's Lawyers in just 4 weeks. In the early hours of Wednesday morning, thieves smashed through this strong room with crowbars and walked away with a 3-volume series of books dating back to 1784.
They were an original account printed in 1784 of Captain Cook's voyages into the Pacific, and it included an eyewitness account of Captain Cook's death.
For just a few days, they were in transit between the owner and evaluators.
The books were purchased by a friend and client of mine in about 1964 out of Dorothea McKellar's estate.
But now it's feared the books, among the last of their kind in the world, may be lost forever.
I'm offering a reward of $5,000 for the return of the books. They're rare, they're historical, they're of particular value to this friend and client of mine. They'll be very difficult to dispose of otherwise, but they are of great historical value.
Sarah Bamford, NBN News.
The defence early was as stiff as the howling wind, but there are ways around it, and Troy Wright's kick couldn't have landed any better for Brett Cullen, one of the league's best finishers, the centre doing just that for first points. The conversion, though, never had a chance. And neither did Cullen soon after, the centre knocked out and taken to hospital. This was the tale of perseverance, Troy Wright getting 2 chances to clear it from the boot before Garth Ross set up the halfback with a backdoor pass that led straight to a 10-0 lead. Then the terror struck back, Joey Griffiths breaking through and setting up Luke Gibson, and the Magpies were back within 4. Ever dangerous, George Carmont again showed his attacking abilities, breaking through just before half-time to send Matt Coombs over, levelling it at the break. Although little separated them after half-time, West got some breathing space. Dave Goodridge thought he'd extended the buffer, but the referee had other ideas, calling a double movement. No troubles for Joel Berry, who got the Terrace in front for the first time in the game, and from there they were never headed. The Maggies, through to their first top-grade grand final, West will now play Cessnock for a second chance to reach the big one.
While Superintendent Mick Kenny was unveiling the police crest, Senior Sergeant Arthur Webber was up the pole, taking the wraps off the station's new sign. The new Swansea Police Station opened for business today in Josephson Street, not far from the Swansea Channel. It'll house more police and will be open longer than the old station nearby.
Whilst the police station won't be manned 24 hours a day, it'll be manned most days from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that gives us 13 hours that there'll be an officer generally here at the station to answer counter inquiries, plus there'll be a truck on the road during the period of 6 a.m. to 3 a.m. every day.
Lake Macquarie Council built the new station and is leasing it to the police service. Department of Education staff will be housed in the other half of the new building. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Always pencilled in for a comeback this weekend, the coach was more than happy to confirm the return of two of his most wanted.
Robbie O'Davis, Tamana Tahu, both certain starters.
Despite a public spat between O'Davis and the club last week about his contract negotiations, there were more fruitful talks late today with his manager. A decision on the fullback's long-term future could well be known by Thursday. Tahu's return ends a frustrating 5-week sidelined with a leg muscle tear. If the team named today can make it on the field against the Saints on Sunday, it'll be the strongest side to take the field for several weeks, despite the loss of the captain. However, there are still concerns for Matt Gidley, Mark Hughes and Ben Kennedy, who carries various leg troubles.
You know, we've got a little bit more depth on our bench and we think we can probably cover that for a week at least.
If the Knights are desperate, it's nothing compared to that of the Dragons, who named injured star halfback Brant Furman as they cling to faint final hopes. But it doesn't surprise the Knights coach one bit.
Anyone that's half a chance of playing is going to play because you need your best players in the key positions, and he's certainly one of those. So I would expect him to be on the park this week, even if he wasn't 100%.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
This is the last thing a coach and fans would like to see, another Knights player wearing a neck brace. A niggling injury made more serious after a hit in the team's weekend loss to Canberra.
I've had pain before in my neck, but nothing as severe as this, so I did have that feeling that I was in a bit of strife.
Mark Hughes will be joining Andrew Johns on the sideline for the rest of this season with a similar neck complaint as the halfback. It's the second year in a row that the centre's year has come to a premature end. Anthony Quinn is expected to take his place in the team. Hughes had been playing fullback in the absence of Robbie O'Davis, but he's back this weekend against the Dragons, still with contract issues to sort out with the club.
It hasn't moved any further than about a week ago, so let's hope we can resolve this pretty quick because it is coming up semi-finals and I don't want to have anything else on my mind other than playing the game, so let's hope I can get it out of the way pretty quick.
Also at today's training was perhaps a Knight's secret weapon. One of the game's great kickers, former Bulldog Daryl Halligan, was on hand to give Daniel Abraham and Kirk Gidley some coaching. And they might need it, considering this sideline conversion from Andrew Johns, the last time the Knights met the Dragons, sealed a red and blue win. Cullen Robinson, NBN News. While both teams have been rocked by injuries, two of Newcastle's best return in this weekend's match. Tamana Tahu is back after 5 weeks off with a leg injury, and Robbie O'Davis is also making his return to the team.
But unfortunately, it's like walking into a movie with about half an hour to go. It's nearly finished the season and I'm just starting to get into it. The body's feeling great, ready to go, and it's probably the best it's felt all year.
The fullback expects this weekend's game against the Dragons to be reminiscent of previous tough encounters between the clubs. But he's under no illusions. The stakes on Sunday are even higher.
And they have to win to stay in contention, so if that's not enough incentive to beat us, I don't know what is.
Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
John Nielsen never imagined that sinking his homemade canoe at the age of 7 would lead to this. The world long distance paddle record holder is ready to whet his appetite for the water once again. He's about to canoe 3,000 kilometres from Goondiwindi on the Queensland border to Walgett, Burke and on to Wentworth at the southern end of the state. The journey begins in 8 days, but the sprightly great-grandfather was today bid farewell by his family and friends.
I just feel that I'm doing something at last that could benefit the future of our catchment areas.
Only yesterday, the state and federal governments agreed to work together in an effort to improve the health of the Murray-Darling River system. And Mr Nielsen would do his bit, collecting soil and water samples during the 54-day journey that will be analysed by conservation groups. Educational programs will also be carried out at local schools along the way.
It was my generation that started to ruin the rivers in the first place, and I just feel that the present generation are not doing a lot about it.
Colleen West, NBN News.
It was no ordinary Sunday morning. Police scattered throughout Wallsend Plaza, trying to piece together just what had happened. The drama began to unfold at 10 o'clock as the 19-year-old victim was arriving for work. She had parked her car outside the shopping centre when a man approached her blue Mazda and threatened her with a syringe. The teenager was forced into the passenger seat as the man climbed into the car and sped off. Later, the woman was forced from the vehicle near the Freeway Link Road before her abductor drove off. Once the teenager was freed, she got a lift from a passing motorist and called for help. She told detectives her car and other personal items had been stolen and that the man had made threats to harm her if she raised the alarm. So far, police have been unable to find the vehicle or the man believed responsible. He is described as white in appearance with shoulder-length shaggy brown hair, very dirty appearance and wearing a grey or dirty white jumper. Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
Armed with his first major gold medal and still carrying battle scars from Monday night's title fight in Kuala Lumpur, middleweight boxer Jamie Pittman couldn't have wished for a better lead-up to his first senior fight in Newcastle on Friday week.
I just had 3 fights overseas and won a Commonwealth gold medal, so yeah, I'm fitter than ever at the moment and ready to go.
The golden performance has certainly given his Olympic campaign a healthy boost ahead of the trials early next year. Also hoping to board the Australian Olympic team's plane is Lake Macquarie sailing pair Chris Nicholson and Gary Boyd. 32-year-old Chris was back where it all started this morning, giving himself a well-earned break ahead of the world titles in Spain in 2 weeks' time. And if all goes to plan, the 49er class sailors will be headed for Athens next year.
We've got another 2 regattas to go, but we're hoping to get it all done and out of the way this next regatta.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
It's news Spur-Best supporters have wanted to hear for months. The state government has called in the proposed $105 million development, leaving Gosford Council powerless. Minister Craig Knowles today said it defies belief that the $105 million proposal has not been out on public display after 18 months before council. But the embattled Mayor Robert Bell has defended council, saying it was prepared to approve the height at 15 storeys, but the developer hadn't provided enough documentation.
The current controls were relaxed to a certain point, and that's as far as we're prepared to go. The developer wasn't satisfied with that. We cannot have a developer-led city of the future.
And Councillor Holstein agrees.
Now the Minister wants to step in because the developer wants a couple storeys higher
Who's running the state? State government or the developers? I'm perplexed, let's say, but I've still got my job as a councillor and I'll still continue to do that. If the state government wants to step in, good luck. They've got that right to do that. But that doesn't mean they're going to get it right either.
The government is also directing Gosford Council to draw up a new town centre strategy within 6 months. Mayor Bell says that was already in the pipeline.
From his office in Sydney, Greg Colburn, the General Manager of Spurbest, said the state government's intervention is good news as the development can now move forward and the community will finally get the opportunity to have its say.
There's enormous frustration on the Central Coast over this particular development. More than $100 million of big investment for the Central Coast shouldn't be sneezed at. It certainly shouldn't take 2 years to not make a decision.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
A great last round of football is coming up with Rugby League on the verge of a wonderful semi-final series, but there are a few issues the NRL must face before the semi-final success can be assured. Most people are aware the players have boycotted the Dally M's, which is a players' award night. And there are certain sections of the media and the rugby league world criticising the players and the association for what they consider a harsh move, supposedly holding a gun to the head of the NRL to agree to their conditions of their bargaining agreement in only 1 week. Now, in my point of view, I fully support what the players are doing. I feel the association has basically, well, it's been ignored for the last 2 or 3 years, and it seems to me like the NRL would rather see the demise of the association rather than fostering a working relationship. The players sacrificed their own night, not affecting the fans or the club, and I can truly say that I can't believe in all these years in such a great game that there's something not already in place to assure the basic rights of all the players. Now, we're the only code that doesn't have this type of enterprise, and I think it's definitely time for change. Anyway, on the round 26, and the season's almost complete tonight, the Broncos meet the Dragons at Suncorp Stadium. I'm expecting Brisbane to click into semi-final intensity and win this game. On Saturday's games, I'm going for the Warriors, Bulldogs and the Storm. 3 good games on Sunday. I'm going to tip the Raiders over the Roosters. Knights to see out Matt Jobson and Sean Rudder. What a great career he's had with a win. And the Panthers also to do the job. Good luck with your tips. Catch you next week.
It was the first uni side to run out for a top-grade grand final in 10 years, but it was the Waratahs with all the early running in the game, Greg Tolhurst booting first points. As expected, the Tars back row got them going, big number 8 Lolo Mohu sneaking through for a 10-0 lead. Missing his first attempt, Mark Gardner got a little help in his second as Uni got its first points. It wasn't clear who won the fight, but Mohu got an early rest ahead of half-time. But you can't keep giving the comp's highest point scorer a chance within range. The Tars up 16-3 at the break. Uni needed first points in the second half And second rower Sam Patterson delivered as the students clawed back to within 6. From close range, Mohu was proving unstoppable. His second looked like giving a match-winning lead. But discipline was again a problem for the men in red, with 2 of them soon seeing yellow. Down to 13 players, Uni played a simple numbers game and Gardner got across the stripe. 21-15, the Tars held on in a thrilling finish to win and lift the trophy for the first time outright since 1971. Arriving home with some precious cargo. Not since 1977 had a Cessnock team return with the premiership, and the party they waited so long for could begin.
26 years since you've won a comp. Them 2 trophies there, they're for every player, every club man, everyone who's walked through these doors in the last 26 years. Thank you.
Andrew Taylor was awarded the Don Schofield Medal. It added to his Man of the Match award from a game that will long be remembered for its swinging fortunes and thrilling finish. Down 18-0 at one stage, the Terrace stormed home, scoring 20 unanswered points to snatch the lead inside the last 10 minutes. With time all but up, Cessnock struck back, with Lance Leonard crashing over, and the game looked sealed at 22-20. But Terrace grabbed the ball from the restart and had one last shot at snatching victory in a finish that will be talked about for years. From ecstasy to agony for the Terrace, with the try disallowed for offside.
Try. That's all I can say. Yeah, try.
For retiring Terrace captain Scott Coxon, it was a hard way to end his playing career. Cessnock, though, which lost in controversial circumstances in 1999, victory was sweet and one sure to be celebrated for some time yet.
Waratah and Lake Macquarie detectives arrested the man after investigations into the kidnapping of a 19-year-old woman from the Wallsend Plaza shopping centre 8 days ago. The woman had only just parked her car when its alleged 36-year-old Jimmy Dmitry Nikolovsky of Wallsend approached and threatened her with a syringe. It's then alleged the victim was forced into the passenger seat of the vehicle and ordered to place a beanie over her head. The woman was driven to the nearby Freeway Link Road area where she was dumped, and the car and personal belongings were stolen by her abductor. In police facts tendered to the court, Nikolovsky is alleged to have made a series of threats to the woman during her ordeal, telling her, "I will kill you right now, I can give you AIDS, and I'm not going to let you go because you will go to the police." Jimmy Nikolovsky made a brief appearance before Newcastle local court today. His solicitor, Greg Murray, made an application for bail, describing the police case against his client as circumstantial. However, Magistrate Michael Morahan refused the application. Nikolovsky will reappear before the court later in the month. Gary Blair, NBN News.
Gathering to announce some of their awards for the past season, the NJC could hardly contain the news for the pending Spring Carnival.
Crack galloper Thorne Park will have his next start in the Cameron Handicap at Newcastle Wednesday week, and that is great news for the NJC and for racing fans here.
It's not clear if Newcastle Trainer of the Year Gai Waterhouse will saddle up last year's Cameron and Epsom winner Accelerator after being heavily weighted, while it's hoped some of the big names from the Cup will also accept.
Half Hennessy won the Queensland Derby, won the Group 2 Grand Prix at Eagle Farm during the winter. He's heading this way.
Cardiff has won straight through to the Black Diamond AFL Grand Final after beating minor premiers Newcastle City. The Hawks kicked away to a great start with 5 majors in the opening quarter. Semi-final specialists these days, Cardiff found too much space. The Blues only managing 1 major for the first term, and they couldn't chase the Hawks down. A huge result for West in the final round of the Premier Hockey League, with a thrilling last-minute win over minor premiers Phoenix North to have them finish 3rd overall. Leading 1-0, West was desperate to hang on to the lead, but just before half-time, they gave the ladder leaders a shot to level from the spot. From there, it took some great saves to keep West in the match, before a Nick Fraser strike with just seconds left to win the game.
When it comes to getting from one place to another in the Lower Hunter, 95% of our journeys are made by car. However, a new report on developing a sustainable transport strategy for the region claims it's a mindset that needs to change. It argues our existing urban road network can't cater for unlimited use by cars, and author Len Regan warns unless the Lower Hunter plans for the future, the only road we're on is to repeat Sydney's transport mistakes.
The transport systems have to be developed for each region. If we continue to go the way, for example, that Sydney has gone, we'll end up in the same mess, and we don't want that.
The report prepared for Newcastle, Lake Macquarie, Port Stephens, Maitland and Cessnock councils says existing public transport services do provide a basis to change travelling habits, but it will require a major overhaul of the coordination between bus and train timetables and putting control of the transport system in local hands if commuters are to fully benefit from efficient, reliable public transport.
The one ticketing system, the one fare system, the coordination between the various modes with the connections guaranteed.
Newcastle and Maitland councils will begin public debate on the report when they meet tomorrow night. Gary Blair, NBN News. Hospitals across the region have been at the pointy end of the recent spike in influenza and respiratory illness cases. It's part of the reason why the emergency department at John Hunter has been operating near peak capacity.
We've had up to 50% more patients in hospital with pneumonia than we normally experience at this time of the year compared to, say, last year. And also August was again a 40-50% increase on July.
Dr Hensley says one concerning aspect of the mini epidemic is that age provided no protection against pneumonia.
But in this case we've had pneumonia in young people, older people, pregnant women. There's been quite a wide range of people susceptible to pneumonia.
While GPs and pharmacies are starting to see a slowing of the cold and flu season, the public is still being asked to be vigilant. And those people who have recently had a bout of the flu are already being encouraged to think about being immunised against the illness in autumn next year.
For people over the age of 65 and for people with chronic heart and lung disease, and that's done in autumn each year. And then there is the pneumococcal vaccine, which is the bacteria that causes pneumonia, and we recommend that again for people over the age of 65 and those with chronic heart and lung disease.
No one likes having a needle. It can be painful and often distressing, especially for small children. But this painful prick in the arm could soon be a thing of the past, with HMRI researchers developing an adhesive patch coated with the vaccine.
It crosses the skin, the epidermis, and just below the epidermis we find this population of immune cells, which are sentinel cells, which are there to pick up foreign agents in the skin, and they then initiate the immune response.
Currently, researchers are trialling a vaccine for chlamydia on mice, but they believe the patch system could have widespread applications.
It would be nice to think that you could go to your GP and just have a patch slapped on your arm and that's your immunisation done.
In fact, initial tests have shown the patch is actually more effective than needles in delivering the vaccine to the body. But in order to begin human trials, the researchers need more funding. Interestingly, US authorities are considering funding the project as part of their fight against bioterrorism.
Well, there's a strain of chlamydia which has been identified by the Centres for Disease Control as a potential bioterrorist agent. So we're actually in the process of seeking funding to see if we can develop a patch-based immunisation scheme to protect against that form of potential bioterrorism threat.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
So when we have a particular disease, we might present that disease in a slightly different way, and that's really caused by the difference in the proteins that we have in our cells.
The first week of the semi-final series and 8 teams have pitted against each other to create 4 of the best matchups for a long time, and it all starts tonight. Now, picking favourites to go through to next week is extremely tough. Only 3 weeks ago, the Bulldogs were standouts in terms of being favourites to take out the competition. But in that time, they've gone off the board with a loss to the Raiders and an average win against the Sharks last week. But for mine, the Warriors are the team that stepped up in that period. The 6 weeks absence of Stacey Jones due to a groin injury allowed the likes of Brent Webb, Thomas Lualai to increase their attacking role and their involvement in the team. Now, their forward pack is the most aggressive in the league, recording more dominant tackles than any other side. They have a tremendous attack from dummy half with an average of 35 runs per game, which again is the best in the league. But on Saturday, the Knights will have to overcome a team that set the standard all year. The Roosters are the fittest, the most disciplined and the best defensive team on their own try line in the whole competition. For the Knights to win, they must win possession. They must have the majority of the ball. Usually with Joey at the helm, the Knights always get away to a good start and they must emulate that. The kicking game from Kurt Gidley in general play must be 10 out of 10. That is most important, and they also need to convert 1 or 2 of those kicks into tries for the boys to win. I think they can do it. Now, my tips for week 1 of the final series, I'm going for the Raiders over the Storm, Warriors over the Bulldogs, and of course the Knights to pull off a big one, the Panthers to buck the Broncos. Should be some good games over the weekend. I'll catch you next week.